Here for another video. So if you've been paying attention and watching along with my top or my favorite Pokemon by type videos, then you know we are just about to enter the top 5. But before I get into the top 5 in that series, I wanted to throw out a couple of other videos that I thought would be fun to add because I keep alluding to these and I keep throwing these Pokemon out there and I keep touching on them, but I haven't actually made this video yet. So I'm going to rank my top 10 favorite Pokemon of all time. Now, this list, there are no rules for this list. It is just my favorite Pokemon that I've ever loved. And I'm telling you guys, this list, some of these choices were hard. And the thing I was realizing is as I was making this list, some of these Pokemon I'm like, you know, this sounds like I'm just doing it for the likes or the fan service, or I'm like, oh, that one's too obvious, or this, that, and the other. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? This is my favorite list. Some people might not like it, some people might, but at the end of the day, this is the list that I like, and I got to do the ones that I find the best. You might have a different top 10 list. You might hate my choices. You might like my choices. You think my choices are mid, whatever, but this is my top 10 list. So let's dive in. So I wanted to start off with some honorable mentions. So this list, there's no particular order to this list, but these Pokemon, we got Gimmighoul, Lucario, Chikorita, Boltund, Glalie, Umbreon, Pawmot, Cinderace, Skeledirge, and Salamence. These are some of my favorite Pokemon, but they didn't quite make the top 10 list. I'm usually using these Pokemon on a rotating basis in some capacity. I love these Pokemon. I know Chikorita, I also would throw Meganium in here, but it's more Chikorita. But these Pokemon are awesome, and you might even see a couple of these Pokemon's unevolved form on another top 10 list I'm going to be doing here pretty soon before we get into our top 5 for my typing videos. But yeah, these Pokemon are awesome. I guess if I had to pick one of these Pokemon to put as like number 11 or something, it'd probably either be Boltund or Cinderace. I really liked Gen 8. I actually like Gen 8 and the Galar region more than the Paldea region. I think Scarlet and Violet get a little more hate than it deserves in some aspects. Like, I like Skeledirge, I like Gimmighoul, some of the Pokemon are cool, Pawmot's cool, but I do like Gen 8 and the Galar region better than Gen 9 with the Paldea region. But I digress. So now jumping into my top 10. And again, there are no rules for this. So I didn't say no Mega, or I didn't say no, evolutions or legendaries or any of that. It's just my 10 favorite. So my number 10, and you're going to notice most, if actually all of these have some nostalgia involved to them. And that's okay. Nostalgia makes the world go round. That's why people like the things that they like. So my number 10 is Ampharos. This Pokemon, I've always liked it. I thought Mareep was a really cool, fun little sheep Pokemon. Ampharos's Mega Evolution looks amazing. And on top of that, it is a solid, strong electric type. I mean, this Pokemon you can get, it's an early electric type in the game. You can evolve it fairly quick because Ampharos, I believe, evolves at level 30. So you can get this heavy-hitting electric type Pokemon early. And it's just got a really cool design. So I like Ampharos. It's got that nostalgia aspect, being from all the way from Gen 2. I use it all the time. I just did a playthrough where I actually used Ampharos as my primary Pokemon, so it's a great Pokemon. Now, my only legendary on this list, and I've loved this Pokemon since the beginning, and if you've been watching my typing videos, then you saw that this Pokemon just came up there, and that would have to be Mewtwo. I mean, honestly, I probably should have put Mewtwo a little higher on this list. I really love this Mewtwo, but I put him a little lower just because I knew some people would be like, oh, Mewtwo's a legendary, that doesn't count, or whatever. But again, this is my list. Mewtwo's always been fun. He's always been a great Pokemon. I've always loved him. He has an amazing design. His Mewtwo X form is so cool. The Y form, not so much. But he is just a stacked Pokemon, and I mean, he's perfect. I mean, he is like one of the most perfect designed Pokemon, and the movie and the series and all that just made me love him even more, especially when Ash just punched him and he just knocked him back. But yeah, so there are so many reasons to like Mewtwo from the movies and games and so on, but he's always been in my top 10 since the very beginning of my Pokemon journey, and I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. Now, my number 8, and honestly, I could have flipped 8 and 9, who knows, but my number 8 would have to be Flareon. This is hint hint not the last evolution you're going to see on this list, and as you saw in my honorable mentions, Umbreon's on there too. I love evolutions. The only evolution I truly do not like is Sylveon because I hate the fairy typing. And Sylveon just kind of looks weird to me. Plus, I also wish we would have gotten like a ground or a flying or something like that. Like every generation, mainline generation game should release 2 more evolutions until we get every type. If they don't give us every typing of Eevee, then what the heck are they doing here? But Flareon's awesome. I love fire type, so the fire type evolution is great. Hint, hint. And Flareon's always been a fun Pokemon. Plus, I like Flareon because it's one of the ones where you just evolve it with a stone. It's simple, quick, to the point. You get your Firestone and move on. And I also loved how back in Gen 1, and a few of the generations kind of did this, but most of them moved away from it. But I loved back in Gen 1 when you could just go buy your evolution stones. You didn't have to go searching for them or anything like that. You just bought them and you were done with it. All right, so now my number 7, another fire type, and my first starter on this list, and that's Blaziken. I think everybody loved Blaziken. I mean, when he came out in Gen 3, oh my god, he was the talk of the town. His Mega Evolution is phenomenal. One of the best Mega Evolutions out there. If I was ranking pure Mega Evolutions alone, Blaziken would be probably top 3 easily. This guy is awesome. And then you have May's Blaziken from the show. He is pristine. I mean, honestly, the only reason he's not higher on this list is because some of my higher ranked Pokemon, I also used them in battle, and they were on my all-star team. So that was one of the reasons why. So they have the nostalgia and the cool factor like Blaziken, but I also put them on my all-star team. And the reason Blaziken wasn't on my all-star team, well, you'll see that later on. Some of you might even know. Now, my number 6, this choice is more for the whole evolution line versus just the single Pokemon, and that would be Gardevoir. I've liked Ralts since the beginning. Ralts is one of my favorite unevolved forms of all of them. And when I was playing Gen 3 for the first time and Ralts popped up for that very first time, I thought he was amazing. And then when I played in Pokemon Gale of Darkness, the GameCube game, getting Ralts and then evolving him all the way up was such a fun concept. It was so fun to be able to see these new Gen 3 Pokemon in the GameCube games. I loved it. And Gardevoir is a heavy hitter too. And again, I'm not a fan of the fairy type, but once you give Gardevoir that fairy type with those fairy type moves, she can also wreck dragon type. So it's always good to have on your team. Now, my top 5. My number 5, this Pokemon has always been on my team or stacked on my team one way or another. Literally, the playthrough of Legends Arceus I'm playing, he's literally my number 2 Pokemon after Decidueye, which was my starter, and that's Luxray. I mean, I love electric typing. Hint, hint. Luxray has always been great. Shinx is such a cute little Pokemon. Every chance I get when I do a playthrough of Diamond and Pearl, I always make sure to catch a Shinx and evolve it up. He's usually my go-to electric type when I'm playing the Gen 4 games. And he's just a cool, bad-looking Pokemon. I mean, look at this guy. And then his shiny type, oh my god, phenomenal. I hope they give him a Mega Evolution. I think that would be so cool. Now, my number 4, the rest of my list is pretty much stacked with starters. The next 4 are literally 3 out of 4 starters. And then I got Blastoise. Squirtle is actually my favorite starter of all Pokemon. Of all the starters across all 9 generations of Pokemon, I actually like Squirtle the best. Not Charmander. But that's just off the evolution, the first stage evolution themselves. Blastoise as a whole, 4th best. He's always been one of my favorites, and it's actually kind of funny, but Blastoise was actually supposed to be my first starter. My first Pokemon game ever was Pokemon Blue, and I was that impatient little kid where all I did was click A, and I was trying to click through right away to get to Blastoise, and I accidentally picked Charmander instead. So, it is what it is, but Blastoise is an awesome Pokemon. He's one of the few Megas I actually don't like his Mega over his base form. Like, I don't hate his Mega Evolution, but I prefer this Blastoise over Mega Blastoise. Now, my top 3. These 3 Pokemon are honestly they're my 3 favorite Pokemon of all time, hands down. Like, I know that's what this list is, but they've always been my top 3, and I don't think they're ever going to switch out. My number 3 is Sceptile. I actually in game, kind of prefer Blaziken. Like, and this is gonna sound weird, so you're probably thinking, well, why don't you put him higher? I prefer Blaziken if we're only going off the individual in-game Pokemon. But then when you add in the movies, when you add in nostalgia, and you add in the fact that Sceptile has been on my All-Star Pro team in every tournament, pretty much every tournament that I've ever entered, from all the way from Gen 3 on, when I played games, the biggest tournament I ever won playing Pokemon games, Sceptile was on that team. So when you put all that in there, Sceptile kind of gets the bump up above Blaziken. But when we're going off just the games themselves, I usually pick Blaziken over Sceptile. But when you include everything to, like I said, the TV shows and all that, Sceptile wins out. I mean, he's an awesome Pokemon. Trico and Grovyle are cool. Grovyle is actually one of the few second stage evolutions I actually like. Most people forget about second stage evolutions. It's usually like, who cares? Like I can't even name every second stage evolution starter. I mean, I probably could if I really thought about it. But, you know, Grovyle, on the other hand, is actually a cool, solid Pokemon, and Sceptile is just goated. Now, my final two favorites, if you know anything about me, or you've ever met me, you probably already know the two, and I've talked constantly about why they're the two, and hint, hint, you're going to see them again in a different video. So, my number two favorite is Jolteon. I love electric typing. Evolutions are some of my favorite. Eevee is awesome. I love Let's Go Eevee, the Pokemon game. And Jolteon's been my favorite. He was actually my second heavy hitter in my original blue version. It was Jolteon, and then my number one pick, which, let's be honest, anyone who knows anything about me already knows where my number one pick is going to be. But Jolteon, this guy is solid. I mean, he's a powerful hitting electric type. He's fast. He's got the cool design, you know, and again, I don't know what else to say. Nostalgia, you know, whatever you want to add it. I've just always loved Jolteon. He's always been my second favorite Pokemon, literally since the beginning. I don't think I've ever had another second favorite Pokemon in the last 25 years of me loving Pokemon. And then, of course, anyone who knows anything about me, anyone who's ever seen any video of mine, anyone who's ever even talked to me about Pokemon, you already know what this one is. It's Charizard. You can call me basic, you can call me a fanboy, you can call me whatever you want, but at the end of the day, Charizard's my GOAT. I mean, he's been my Pokemon since the beginning. Charmander was the first ever Pokemon I ever chose in any game of all time. He was the first plushie I got when I was a little kid, and he's just always been there. I mean, I don't care what you say about Charizard being crammed down our throats or put in every game imaginable. He's an awesome Pokemon. He's solid. He's a great Pokemon. The Charizard in the TV show is amazing. Ash's Charizard was so cool. And then you slap on his Mega Evolution. I mean, that Charizard X, that's technically my favorite Pokemon is Charizard X. But you throw Charizard X in there, how does anyone like another Pokemon besides this guy? This guy is just... he is the greatest of all time. And I promise you, I can stake my life on it now. I'm going to be a Pokemon fan till the day I die. I don't care. I will never have another favorite Pokemon besides Charizard. It is what it is. I might switch out my number 2 or 3. I doubt number 2. Jolteon's probably always going to be my second GOAT. But I will never have a different favorite besides Charizard. And you can come at me for that. You can agree with me. But he's my favorite. And nostalgia plays a big part of that. But who cares? Charizard's my GOAT. So that's my favorite top 10 list. Stick around. I'm going to do one more video, and then we are going to get back in to my favorite typing series, and we're going to finish that out. And this list, if you were paying attention, might have given away what my top 5 are. So thanks, everyone, and stick around for my next top 10 list, and then we're going to be back into the typing videos.